What happens when a person's body becomes a public spectacle? For Sarah Baartman, a Khoi woman from South Africa, the answer was a life of exploitation and the legacy of dehumanization.
The most problematic thing is the treatment of Sarah Baartman while she was there, so being treated as an animal, being kept in a cage. Her body was then dissected and kept at the Musée de l'Homme.
This is the story of how she was enslaved, paraded as subhuman, a curiosity, a freak show, treated like an animal, studied and dissected by scientists, and her remains displayed in a French museum for 2 centuries till 1974. But in death, Sarah fought for her dignity and had the last say. This is the sad and tragic story of Saki Baartman. Early life. My name is Yao Bantu and we tell stories on this channel from the motherland, so please subscribe and check the rest of our videos. Born in 1789 in South Africa's vast Eastern Cape in the late 18th century, Sarah Baartman, also known as Saki, was a member of the Khoi people of South Africa, a nomadic group whose way of life was being brutally shattered by European colonization. She grew up in a war-torn landscape where the Khoi were fighting for survival against the encroaching Dutch. This was a time of unimaginable violence, as thousands of indigenous people were massacred. One witness account from a Dutch commando raid describes a scene of merciless violence, where the Khoi women and children were shot without mercy. Saki Baartman was an infant when her mother died, and her father was later killed by other tribesmen while driving cattle. Saki spent her childhood and teenage years on Dutch European farms. She went through puberty rites and kept a small tortoise shell necklace, most likely her mother's, until her death. In the 1790s, a free black trader named Peter Cesar met her and encouraged her to move to Cape Town. She lived in Cape Town for at least 2 years, working in households as a washerwoman and the nursemaid, first for Peter Cesar, then in the house of a Dutchman in Cape Town. She finally moved to be a wet nurse in the household of Peter Cesar's brother, Hendrik Cesar, outside Cape Town in present-day Woodstock. A wet nurse is a woman who breastfeeds another person's child, providing human milk and care for infants when the biological mother cannot or chooses not to for some reason. She had a relationship with a poor Dutch soldier, Hendrik van Jong, who lived in Hartby near Cape Town, but the relationship ended when his regiment left the Cape. There is evidence that she had 2 children, though both died as babies. A morbid fascination. In 1810, a British surgeon named Alexander Dunlop arrived. He was captivated by Sarah's physique. She was curvaceous and featured large buttocks, a trait that was common among Khoi women but considered freakish by Europeans. For nearly 2 centuries, European naturalists had harbored a morbid fascination with the unique physical features of Khoi women, fueled by rumors and a desire to classify and categorize different human races. The prevailing mindset was one of dehumanization. Many believed that Khoi were subhuman and not part of the same human species. In exchange for cash, Caesar began to show her at the city hospital where surgeon Alexander Dunlop worked. Dunlop operated a side hustle in supplying animal specimens to showmen in Britain, and then he suggested that Sarah travel to Europe to make money by exhibiting herself. To this point, Sarah refused. Dunlop persisted, and Sarah said she would not go unless Hendrik Cesar came too. In 1810, Hendrik agreed to go to Britain to make money by putting Sarah on stage. It is unknown whether Sarah went willingly or was forced. although her earlier refusal could mean that she was most likely coerced. Her journey to England in 1810 lasted 3 months. She was never to see her homeland again. She was 21 years old. The London Show and the court case. In London, just 4 years after Britain had abolished the slave trade, Sarah's show was an instant sensation. For 2 shillings per head, people flocked to her exhibition at Piccadilly Street. Dunlop thought he could make money because of Londoners' lack of familiarity with Africans and because of Sarah's features, which was viewed as variously grotesque and obscene. People came to see her because they saw her not as a person, but as a pure example of this one part of the natural world. She became known as the Hottentot Venus. This is a derogatory and offensive term used by the colonizers to describe the Khoi people. So we're not going to mention that again. A journalist from the Times described her as being produced like a wild beast and ordered to move backwards and forwards, more like a bear in a chain than a human being. The tradition of freak shows was well established in Europe at the time, and historians have argued that this is at first how Sarah was displayed. But she never allowed herself to be exhibited nude, and an account of her appearance in London in 1810 makes it clear that she was wearing a garment, albeit a tight-fitting one, just about covering her private area. She became a subject of scientific interest, albeit of racist bias frequently, as well as of erotic projection. It is alleged that she was marketed as the missing link between man and beast. Oh my God, that is... The Anti-Slavery League and the African Institute were outraged and brought her case to the court, arguing she was being coerced. During the 3-hour court interview, Sarah was asked questions in Dutch. She stated that she had agreed to a 6-year contract for half the show's profits. She was treated kindly and was perfectly happy. We all know that's not going to be true. Historians have subsequently expressed doubts on the veracity and independence of the statement that she had made. Obviously, essentially, it was fabricated for her. And Sarah could not read, so all the contract talk was just rubbish. Saki Baartman continued to state to the courts that she was not under restraint, had not been sexually abused, and had come to London on her own free will. She also did not wish to return to her family and understood perfectly that she was guaranteed half of the profits. The case was therefore dismissed. The fake written contract was produced, which has been suggested to be legal deceit. Many believe she was pressured and coached by Hendrik to give these answers, fearing if she returned to South Africa, she would face a life of slavery or death. The publicity given by the court case increased Sarah's popularity as an exhibit. She later toured other parts of England and was exhibited at a fair in Limerick, Ireland in 1812. She was also exhibited at a fair at Bury Street, Edmonds in Suffolk. A tragic end in Paris. After disappearing from London for a while, Sarah reappeared in Manchester, where she was baptized in December 1811. Circumstances of her baptism are unknown. A man called Henry Taylor took Sarah to Paris, France, around September 1814. Sarah now was 24. She likely believed the West was over, but she was, unfortunately, mistaken. In Paris, her show became even more dehumanizing. She was sold to an animal trainer and exhibited in a cage. Her popularity drew the attention of French scientists again, who paid to observe her. In France, she was effectively enslaved and her exhibition became more clearly entangled with scientific racism. French scientists, these scientists again, no ethos at all. They were curious about whether she had the elongated labia which earlier naturalists had purportedly observed other Khoi women to have at the Cape. This was that morbid fascination, eh? For 3 days in the spring of 1815, she was subjected to a scientific examination at the Museum of Natural History. The scientists had a difficult time convincing her to undress. One account notes she refused to take money to be more compliant. The scientist's report was a testament to the racism of that time, describing her features in comparison to apes, dogs, and other carnivores. Oh my word, what's going on here? She was the subject of several scientific paintings after she was examined. She was also brought out as an exhibit at wealthy people's parties and private salons. Her existence was miserable and extraordinarily poor. At some point, a collar was placed around her neck. Oh my God, this poor love. At the end of her life, she was penniless, which was probably connected to the economic depression of that time. But anyway, they were not going to give her money anyway, isn't it? According to present-day accounts in the New York Times and the Independent, other records suggest that she was also forced to work as a prostitute, but other historians dispute this. She fell sick in France and would not recover. Saki Baartman died on 29th of December 1815 of an undetermined inflammatory ailment, possibly smallpox, while other sources suggest that she contracted syphilis, which then killed her. She was only 26 when she died. A short but sad life, very sad. Even in death, she found no rest. She was dissected out of scientific curiosity, but no autopsy was done to inquire into the reasons of her death. A French anatomist, Cuvier, published notes on the dissection in 1816, which were republished in 1817. Cuvier noted in his monograph that its subject was an intelligent woman with an excellent memory, particularly for faces. In addition to her native tongue, she spoke fluent Dutch, passable English, and a smattering of French. He describes her shoulders and back as graceful, arms slender, hands and feet as charming and pretty. He adds she was adept at playing the Jew's harp, could dance according to the traditions of her country, and had a lively personality. Sounds condescending, isn't it? Despite this, well, here it comes. Cuvier interpreted her remains as evidencing ape-like traits. He thought her small ears were similar to those of orangutans and also compared her vivacity when alive to the quickness of a monkey. Cuvier was part of a movement of scientists who sought to identify and study differences between human races with the aim of theorizing a racial hierarchy. That was their obsession. Her remains were not given peace. Cuvier preserved her skeleton, brain, and genitals for display at the Museum of Natural History. The skeleton and the plaster cast of her body were publicly displayed until 1974. Her brain and genitals have since disappeared. A return to dignity. So for nearly 2 centuries, Sarah's body was a scientific exhibit, but her story would not end there. Following the end of apartheid, a campaign began to repatriate her remains. After the victory of the African National Congress, ANC, in the 1994 South African general election, President Nelson Mandela formally requested that France retain the remains. After much legal wrangling and debates in the French National Assembly, what were they debating about? Just let the poor woman go. France accepted the request on 6th of March 2002. I really would like to know what the debate was about. Her remains were repatriated to her homeland, the Gamtos Valley, on 6th of May 2002. Oh, thank God for that, finally. And buried with the respect that she deserved on 9th of August 2002 in the town of Hanki, over 200 years after her birth. She returned home. Perfect. Sarah was finally able to rest in peace among her people. Today, she's a symbol of a tragic past and testimony to how far, well, at least some people, have come from the pits of hell. The Sati Baartman Center for Women and Children is a one-stop center for all women and children who are survivors of abuse, which honors and remembers the brave lady. Additionally, works are ongoing for the Sarah Baartman Remembrance Center, a critical step in honoring Sarah and restoring the dignity of the Khoi, San, and colored communities. So that is the truly horrific story of Saki Baartman. May her soul continue to rest in peace. And this was truly a horrible experience. I'll see you in my next video.